I'm glad that you're all here tonight. Uh, and I think we all know David, but I will give a very brief introduction for him anyway. David currently serves as the assistant university organist and choirmaster at the Memorial Church of Harvard University. He serves on our program committee and also has many organ students. He has developed our emerging artists program here in the chapter, and he's also the chair of the National Education Programming Committee for the AGO, about which he intends to talk this evening. So, David.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey and Kathy and everyone here tonight. I'm looking forward to talking with you about some of the initiatives that are going on with the National Education Committee. And I'll be curious to get some of your thoughts at the end, and then there's just a time to ask some questions. But what I thought I would do is I'm going to screen share uh, a PowerPoint of just a few of some of these rollouts of initiatives that are in the works, so you can really see what is going on and what's to come. Let's go ahead and talk about some of these initiatives. We'll jump right in. For our agenda tonight, I would like to start with talking about the new and improved Petals, Pipes, and Pizza program. And this includes a new press kit, resources, flyer, logo, certificate, a new handbook, and then also a new video as well. We'll also give an overview of this and then some spark notes of the script that were used in making this project, as well as we had some cameo appearances from other organists around the country. I also then would like to talk about the Achievement Award Program, which is really a little known program that has actually existed for quite some time with on the old AGO website. And then want to then move to the Pedagogy Conference, which is in the works for October and will be open for any members to explore to join that conference that will happen virtually. So let's go ahead and dive in. And first, I'm going to talk about the Petals, Pipes, and Pizza program. The first thing that is new about this PPP program that is different from the past programs is an updated press kit, which includes, as I mentioned, a new logo, flyer, and certificates. This committee on educational programming came up with this new logo. And I thought I might just back up for a minute just to give a little bit about just the history of the PPP program. I think all of you are aware of it or participated or helped with it. But really, this program began in the early 2000s, and the American Guild of Organists Committee on the New Organist had devised this. And so the idea right behind this is that it's a low-cost, partial day program designed to give kids and youth really an introduction to the pipe organ in a fun age-appropriate setting. And since its inception, multiple AGO chapters, churches, and schools have sponsored PPP programs. And it's estimated that over 5,500 youth have been impacted by the PPP program since its inception. So at the time when we decided we were going to revamp this program, it was quite out of date. It had been nearly 20 years since anybody had spent any time on this initiative. So now, just to kind of catch you up to speed, here is the new logo that was designed with this committee. And then also we have sample flyers. So the idea is that you'll be able to download these templates and then plug in a lot of this information. And so that will hopefully save some time as different chapters put together these pieces. So here are also then certificates. The idea then at the end of the program is that you can have a fun certificate to say that you've participated. And we have a couple different of the options between these two, which is quite nice. Kids like to have something, a souvenir to show that they have attended said program. So for chapters that are doing this, and I want to highlight in our program year, we did a pedals, pipes, and Pinot Noir, which was a new spin on this for adults. That was super fun. And actually, one of my recent Harvard graduates students said to me that they were very sad they didn't know about this. Prior because they wanted a chance to play organs and drink wine. So I think this is going to be another, uh, something we should consider for the future because that was quite a hit. Anyway, so this updated handbook, which we'll look at a little bit, really the idea there is that it's going to provide step-by-step instructions for hosting a PPP. And what I like about this is it also provides recruitment ideas with an event timeline and activities, and then also suggestions for follow-up with the organists who came. So it's not just an event that just happened and hoping it sticks, but there's a way to really follow up, right? So one of the things that I find the most valuable about this handbook is its planning guides. These provide ideas for activities or experiences to include in your PPP. The handbook breaks these down into 4 different sections. So first is activities at the organ. And for these, participants stand around the console while you demonstrate the organ's mechanics and tonalities. And then next is activities away from the organ. These take place away from the console and can be very helpful for exploring other organs or elements of the organ that are not easily visible. Third, food and drinks, a great opportunity really to build one-on-one connections with participants and share how the organ and organ playing has impacted your life. Then the final section of the handbook provides ideas for handouts and souvenirs that the participants can take with them. With these ideas, I hope that this can just kind of get the juices flowing, right? Let's go ahead and look at a sample itinerary. And you can see this building off these ideas. This is just a way that you can structure one's time with a PPP. So let's look at it here. You'll see that the presentation portion is divided into really 15-minute segments. And the idea here is to keep this variety and to help keep listeners engaged and curious as well. So let's move on to a second important piece of the handbook, and this is for recruitment and retention. What can happen before and after a PPP? So in addition, you'll find ideas for ways that the chapter can advertise how to approach other music teachers whose students may be interested, and different ways of following up with PPP participants after the event, which I think is really important. We don't want this to be just some kind of event where students just attend, but so that there's follow-up and to keep them engaged. The idea really here is to have an opportunity to build knowledge and enthusiasm around the organ, and we want to really capitalize on that after the PPP is done. Lastly, the handbook points out some logistical considerations, such as name tags and funding considerations. Most importantly, it underscores the importance of following appropriate safety protocols related to working with minors. This might include background checks for PPP presenters, adults always working in pairs, and parents remaining in the room during the PPP. So we want to make sure to take the safety precautions that are appropriate for our community for these PPPs in the future as well. So, just moving on to what putting this together, looked like. On Sunday, June 9th, this would have been nearly a year ago, the members of the Educational Programming Committee and the people on that committee at that time were Russ Weissman, June Newland, Nathaniel Gums, and Vince Carr as well. So we all got together to do this recording. And this has been really in the works since September 2022. So it really took quite some time to really get this off the ground. But we realized that everyone on the committee had actually done grad school in the same place, which was just kind of happenstance. So it was nice to return to our old stomping grounds. So essentially, we used two organs where we made this video, which included the Posi organ in the Institute of Sacred Music studio, which is a mechanical action organ, and then also an E.M. Skinner organ at Wolsey Hall with 200 ranks of pipes. So we spent the morning of our recording at the ISM studio with the Posi organ. Our videographer, Andrew Furman from Texas, joined us. He's an active member of the AGO Austin chapter, actually. And I don't know if you all know this, but the city of New Haven was also known as the capital of pizza. As we were about to play 100-year-old organ, we had to treat ourselves to some of the most iconic slices from a 100-year-old pizzeria. And here's Pepe's. Here's a picture of Frank Pepe. And then after we nourished ourselves, we moved into Wolsey Hall. And one thing I want to mention about the script is really the idea of the pedals, pipes, and pizza when this video was made was to incorporate pizza elements throughout it. So when each of, if you watch the video that we made, you'll see that each speaker, it says what their favorite kind of pizza is. So, you can incorporate these kinds of things in doing one's own PPP project. So what can be more thrilling, of course, than sitting on the bench of an E.M. Skinner? So we were excited to spend our afternoon impressed by the massive blowers and exquisite sounding Skinner organ. And all of us were just really amateur actors. So we were lucky we had a great videographer who would coach us through what this project really looked like. One thing I think we all learned in this initiative was that it's necessary to memorize your lines when doing a project. We had thought we could just kind of read off of a tablet, but interestingly enough, even if you have a teleprompter, you can notice when your eyes are moving up or down. So that was just something that we learned. And so we ended up having to memorize bits of the script as we went through, and then just doing lots of little scenes to make this happen. So just to save some time, I want to give you a few spark notes of the script when that came into play. These included important components of pipe organs. We discussed the differences between the piano and the organ, differences in touch to the number of keyboards, and the addition of a pedal board on an organ. We talked about the aspect of using one's feet to play the pedal board. There's also a discussion in the video that surrounds family of stops, how they work and can be combined. Sol Risotto speaks with us about how pipes are made and the different parts of a pipe. So then in the video, we have diagrams and graphics such as this that are present throughout the film. And the idea was to aid understanding the organ in a visually clear way. The film also explores other notable instruments in the US. In one of our cameos, David Ball demonstrates the Enchimade at Christ Church Cathedral, formerly the Crystal Cathedral. There's also a discussion about the differences between mechanical tracker instruments and electro-pneumatic organs. We demonstrate these differences with footage filmed on the Posi organ in the Yale Institute of Sacred Music organ studio and the Newberry organ at Yale Institute of Sacred Music. Throughout the film, there are instances of organ duets and organ music. There's a scene that features a marvelous duet of Russell Weissman and Nathaniel Gums. There are views inside the organ chambers and discussions of the symphonic sounds. The idea is we're trying to expose PPP participants to as many different types of organs, and just so that they can see a broad scope of things in addition to the organs that are at a PPP. This film featured a visit to the world's largest instrument at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. Nathan Bryson provided a cameo appearance describing the instrument. One of my favorite parts of the script is Russ's visit to the blowers of the Newberry organ in the basement of Wolsey Hall. And And of course, the film wouldn't be complete without a scene of June and Russell really pulling out all the stops on the Wolsey Hall organ. It's really important. If one thing happens, all of the participants at a PPP should know what pulling out all the stops means and get to experience that. That's really important. So one of the things that was really important to our committee when doing this was to have cameo appearances from lots of different people, from really all walks of organ experience and skill sets, right? So really in this effort, right, to make this as inclusive and comprehensive as possible, we had lots of different friends joining us. So Sol Risotto comes to us from Moeller Pipe Organ Company, talks about the different types of pipe organs. Monica Burney demonstrates a pipeless digital organ. Zach France demonstrates a theater organ. David Ball talks about what trumpet enchamadas are, and Nathan Bryson introduces us to the largest organ in the world at Atlantic City's Boardwalk Hall. So this was really the capstone of the PPP project, was having this video. And the idea is all of these resources that I talked about, if they're not already on the national website, they will be shortly. I know they're still tweaking things, but it's really for anybody in any chapter to just have access to all of these materials, to watch this video, to be able to present these things so that you can do your own PPP, right? Let's move on to another initiative. And this is one I'm especially excited to talk about because it's still in process, right? We talked about one that that's already finished, but this is one that's in process. And also, please take special note. I'd love to also have more discussion about this particular one. So this is about the AGO Achievement Awards, and it's a way for entry-level organists really to build the skills and knowledge they need. And the idea is that you will do these achievement awards one-on-one. So they're things that you can do in a private lesson with your teacher. And so there are 5 current, very short courses. These are like 2-page courses about the organ console, organ registration, manual and pedal technique, transposition, and harmony. And the idea is that here you can see a sample course that these are really small. So let me see if I can actually, I'm going to zoom in so you can see this a little better. We have one of the most popular courses, and this one's on transposition. And before I dive into that, I should also say that the 3 most popular subjects as far as courses are registration, transposition, and the console. Okay, so here's a lesson on transposition. In the first example, the student really prepares the following short passage of music as written, then any of the following of these keys chosen by you, the instructor. So in G major, D major, F major, A major, B flat major, E flat major. And in the second example, the student prepares and plays the short passage in 3 of these keys chosen by you. And then the second PDF, which I'm going to just go ahead and scroll to, this is your candidate record. So the first one is just to really kind of get the juices flowing for the instructor, a way to practice this with your student. And once you feel that they've really nailed that concept, then you can give them, just kind of this exam to do. And it's just for you and your student. So it's really informal, but really the idea behind these achievement awards is to enhance the time that you have in your lessons to talk about some of these subjects in a very structured way. So the idea going forward is that this committee wants to really revamp these because they're very much out of date. So the idea is later this summer, we would like to talk about these achievement awards and maybe make a film about them and how they work to kind of demonstrate what that looks like, and how you can put these into use, as well as just update the PDFs and make them really comprehensive as well. So I'm looking forward to opening up a discussion just to talk about some of the subjects that you find in particular that would be helpful, as far as worksheets that you could do, like I mentioned, one on registration, that kind of thing as well. So that's one thing to keep in tucked in the back of your brain for a conversation to happen shortly. And then the last thing that I would really like to talk about that's in the works is an upcoming pedagogy conference. So the idea here is to have a virtual pedagogy conference in October. We plan to have a call for papers. So this is really a way to engage um, organ programs and professors, as well as any AGO members and AGO students. The idea is to have a discounted student rate, a discounted member rate. And the idea here, let me just zoom in. And also, this is very much in the works. So I'm really giving a sneak preview of what's to happen. So the idea is we want to talk and really form this pedagogy about practicing. We want to talk about, really the learner's journey. So from the learning perspective as a student, and then we want the second day to really be about from a pedagogical standpoint. So from the teacher's role in talking about practicing with your students. And so the idea is that each of these sessions is very different and will offer an opportunity to dive into these kinds of subjects. Really, as I mentioned, the target audience is really anybody in the AGO to join. I think we wanted to come up with a topic that will be practical for anybody of of all capacities, whether they are just a church musician, or they're just an academic, or they do both, or they're just getting started on the organ. I mean, the idea is that this should have some kind of workshop that will be useful to everybody. As I mentioned, the idea behind this conference is to really bring together keynote speakers, different presentations, discussion panels, interactive workshops, and then also question and answer with presentations and presenters. Also, like I mentioned, we all know that we're hearing more about organ programs that are closing than organ programs that are opening. So the idea behind this initiative is really to get everybody together and really engage as many of these different colleges and universities that have organ programs, so that they can also let other people know, hey, we exist, and we want to get to know you. So that's really important. And then also everybody who attends, even if you have to miss a session, the idea is that there's all of these presentations are going to be recorded and available for post-conference viewing. And there will be, digital resources and handouts, as well as a virtual conference booklet as well. So just to give you an idea of what this proposed schedule, and no, this is all really tentative for change, but this is kind of what we're thinking. And I'll be interested to kind of hear some of your feedback about all of this. But that we would begin on a Thursday evening. For those who don't have choir rehearsal at that time, and for those of you who do, it will be recorded. But we just want an opportunity for people to just really kind of like socially get to know each other before we dive in on the Friday morning. So we'll have different presentations, different breaks, etc. Friday morning, and then also a Saturday as well. And the as I mentioned, potential presenters to be experienced organ teachers from various backgrounds and institutions, technology experts specializing in organ-related software and hardware, composers and performers specializing in contemporary and diverse repertoire, AGO leadership and representatives from successful organ programs, and student presentations to really encourage the AGOYO members. So I don't know if you're familiar with AGOYO, which is American Guild of Organists, young organists as well. So the idea is we're partnering with them as well because that's really the college student age, especially. And we want them to be very active in this as well. So our committee, the Educational Programming Committee, as well as Agoyo, are really going to combine forces on this. One thing I should mention is our point person, who is now full time at headquarters is Michelle Cardos, and so she's paid, and it's really wonderful having her to really coordinate between committees. And what's nice about this is that we're not only working on a volunteer basis, but because we really have some people that are, their full time can be really just helping with this initiative, that it makes it a much lighter lift for a lot of us that are just, doing this from a volunteer standpoint. So at this point, I would love to launch into a Q&A. And I would maybe like to just start guiding this discussion. Maybe we can back up to the achievement awards. And I would love to ask to see, some of the subjects that you find exciting, helpful, other subjects that you think, wow, I would love to have some kind of like worksheet that I could do this with my students, or this would be a specifically helpful topic. So maybe we can start our discussion around that in particular. And if you instead of a response, you have a question about that you'd like to pose to the whole group, I just would love this to be a time for discussion in these last 20 minutes or so that we have together. So with that, I'd like to open it up, about the achievement awards in particular.
I noticed, David, that the transposition
Yeah.
example that you showed was written with a baseline and then chords above it,
Hmm.
rather than in, say, typical four-part hymn style. And what the rationale behind that might have been. I think both are valuable.
Hmm. No, I mean that's a great question. I so to be honest, I can't answer, the people who wrote it exactly what, their idea was for that. But I agree with you in the sense that I think both ways will be a good avenue forward. And that's also really good feedback as we revise this, to really keep that in mind as well. Yeah, I think that's really, really wonderful. Um, I noticed in general, I think that the worksheet, it just kind of dives right in. And it would be, I think, nice to have some precursor elements before just like, here's the worksheet and do it, right? But to maybe have, I don't know what you think about this, but to actually have some steps to get you to that point, so you have a few more, like, I feel like there's missing worksheets before the sheet that we saw. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like it's too much just to dive right into that. And it still puts a lot of, it's pretty onerous for the teacher to really be getting to that point. So I think that's something that should really be considered, as this, as the committee updates that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Louise?
I have a quick question. I mean, do you do harmony before that? I mean, the thing that I mean, speaking personally, I mean, when I'm transposing, it's just applied harmony, right? You just, after years of looking at it, you look at the hymn, and if you're going chord to chord to chord to chord to chord,
Right.
it's gonna not go well.
Right.
But if there's that, I'm in C major, and oh, there's that F sharp. Oh, okay, I'm going to get a secondary dominant. Okay, great. Just, all those little shortcuts. It seems that if you just go straight into transposition without having harmony first, to know the whys behind it, and also to develop shortcut strategies.
Yeah.
Even I've got this, there's old hundredth, and it's got that F sharp, and
Yeah.
something as simple as that. Oh, what does that mean?
Absolutely. I think that's such a great point. And I think the initial idea was that there were two different courses, harmony and then also transposition. And so I think that would be something that, we should include as a guiding element, that you do the harmony course first, focus on that to make sure that you're really breaking one's teeth on that first, before then you jump into something like transposition. So it's not just, oh, well, I know the mathematical equation to get from A to B, but how's a way that it can be done in a really nuanced and beautiful way? And also, so it's like practical, right? So we're not doing these skills just to do them, but okay, like, you need fill time from your anthem into the doxology in a service, if you're playing, and, what's a way that then, a next step perhaps is to give somebody the end of an anthem and then give them the doxology and say, okay, you got to go here and you got to end here. Here's a practical way to do, like, what's a way you can do that? Maybe as kind of a final practical step. I think that's the thing. I don't want these to just be academic exercises, or I don't want them to be academic exercises, but like really useful, right? For like church musicians. I mean, that's why we're doing it. So it can be useful in a service, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you're looking at, the vertical stuff, and,
right.
and that's actually hard, even if especially if you're doing a hymn, boom, 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 boom. But there's the voice leading.
Right.
The voice leading, so if, I mean, if you've heard, I mean, I remember hearing people going from C, E, G to G down there. And it sounds like a big clunk, right? But you've done it. But, then there's the voice leading piece. And if you just play like that, it's not pleasing.
Yeah, I would say there might be modules on modulation and pedal point and inverted pedal point. We all use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I find this so helpful. And actually your comments are, Louise and Jeff, I mean, they're both so helpful. I think as far as, as we consider what we should do going forward, to put in the worksheet, it would be important to talk about doing this in a way that has poise and elegance, and to guide the teacher to make sure that they're giving these exercises in a way that it really facilitates beautiful playing and not, oh, I did it, check the box, right? So yeah, I really appreciate your saying this. This just really helps, and I'm going to take this back to the committee when we talk. So yeah.
So David, I have a thought. So I'm a Girl Scout, lifelong Girl Scout, and I know that whenever my troop would earn their badges, there would be like 10 steps, 10 things that you have to do, and they were all around one subject. So I wonder what it would look like, instead of having a worksheet be a course, to have a worksheet that you would work on together with maybe a homework element that you could you could talk through at a lesson, and then they could take it home and bring something back to you the next week. And then maybe over the course of 8 lessons or 10 lessons or whatever, then they would have, kind of achieved the level in whatever topic it is.
I love that.
That would be pretty neat. And then it wouldn't, if you could just spend 10 minutes on it in the lesson, then you're not taking up a ton of time away from repertoire and other things you're working on, but you could constantly be kind of picking away at the topic. That would be really helpful for me.
That's so great. I really love that. One thing that I wish I had right now, because I have a student who just did his RCO exam. He wanted to do the grade 8, and he's from the UK. But he said, like, at the beginning of the lesson, he's like, I just want to work on harmonizing a hymn. And so we start every lesson with a hymn. I just give him the melody line, and then we talk through different chords and things he could do it. And I try to guide it as well as I can, but it'd be nice to just have a real codified way of doing this, like you mentioned, like where there's like a step-by-step thing to, quote unquote, like earning the course over like a few lessons. And it doesn't feel so like hodgepodge for teachers to just be like, oh, well, I hope that's enough skills for, this or whatever. But yeah, I just love that, Kathy. That's great. I'm just writing that down.
And then the other thing that I might encourage the committee to look at is the service playing exam.
Yep.
So what skills do you need now? Can you be working on slowly to get you to the point where you could take the service playing exam?
That's so great. I love that.
So if you're looking for other ideas of things to hit, I mean, if registration is not on the service playing exam, but so I think that's a really great thing to keep in there. But if you're looking for ways to expand, that might be something to consider.
And the nice thing is then it could be like a gateway drug, to taking that for your student, which would be really quite nice. That's brilliant. Yeah. Eileen, sorry. Absolutely.
Oh, hi. Yeah. I had the opportunity to teach keyboard harmony and theory and stuff. And it sounds like a lot of these worksheets are keyboard harmony skills. And there's probably terrific texts
There are.
already. And also, wanted to say that I don't think there's any shortcuts. It's the kind of thing that can take weeks and months and years.
Right.
So it might be nice just to have a long-term thing too.
Yes. And you know, that's one thing that's listed at the bottom of the achievement awards, and it was hard to see. I apologize with my screen sharing, was actual textbooks that you should do as a teacher, just to like, you know, here are a few things. But I mean, I think, you know, you're right. To be realistic, there's no way that we can just create this comprehensive guide because they're already out there, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's something I think to consider putting more of those to point teachers in this direction. Okay, you know, if this seems difficult here with this step, why don't you go back and bone up on, you know, those skills in this textbook, you know, try out page this, or, you know, if you find your student struggles with this, go to this chapter of this book. And that's a great place to start, you know, kind of seeing, you know, kind of assessing where, you know, where things are tricky difficulty wise.
Yeah.
But I think that's absolutely, you know, just to really go back to, you know, the theory textbooks with things like this in particular.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I find the achievement awards to be the most helpful with, since there are already so many resources on transposition and harmony, is really things like registration and things at the console. I think those are things that are more organ specific that I'm wondering, you know, that maybe we should really capitalize on more so, you know, because those are things that are really germane and specific to organists, with these kinds of, you know, with these kinds of initiatives. But yeah, Louise.
Yeah, I mean, I just am, as soon as you said that, I was remembering, I think it was you and Fred MacArthur were at the Christian Science Church. Or no, it's Fred and somebody else. And you went, you know, pipe by pipe, pretty much through that organ. And I found that I found that fascinating. I thought, and I got some new ideas. Also, I mean, here I've been doing this for a while, right? And I had some, and okay, there's this kind of organ, and I got some new ideas for registration just from that. And I'm wondering if you, you know, this is all for students, but what about, you know, people who have been at it for a while and say, here's something new. Do you have anything like that? Or maybe you can point to, you know, videos like the one that Fred made.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Oh, his name's evades me. Fred Homan, is that the right name?
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
So he created these interesting videos and a course as well. But they're quite dated. But they're also, along with those videos, were these really interesting, and they were like all on cassette tapes, essentially. I don't think they'd really been digitized, but it was ways you could see a black and white picture of a stop, and then you could like hear its sound, so you kind of knew what that like looked and sounded like, and you would have an idea for registration. And it's a really good idea. The problem is all of that is like so dated that nobody owns really cassette tape players. I mean, I'm from Nebraska, so yes, my parents own one and I still have one, but most people don't, right? So, so I was thinking, you know, that, you know, as you mentioned that, Louise, that would be something that could actually be really cool for a video, is to really like see the pipe and then to like hear the pipe and to, you know, to hear how it combines, and just to have a video of that, and then even maybe make a worksheet with that. So then after, you know, that there's some kind of quiz or something that then you could do later with your own student to kind of like guide them through the organ, to help them through that like process of registration, kind of going, you know, family by, you know, the different families of pipes, you know, strings and flutes and principals, you know, etc. So that's a great idea, and I think that's, you know, that's something that will be, hopefully could be really fruitful. Yeah. Anybody have any other, you know, thoughts about, you know, some of these kinds of courses?
Oh, I'm back more with the attracting people to the instrument in the first place,
Yeah.
with the pedals, pipes, and pizzas. You
Yeah.
know, I grew up in Gloucester, about a
Yeah.
mile away from the Hammond Castle. Our church organist was studying with George Faxon at the time, who was my sixth grade teacher. So at about the time I was in the middle school, I started being attracted to the instrument and the literature so much as I could understand it, but the instrument itself. And as pastor here in Beverly, I'm not only pastor of 3 parishes, but believe it or not, I'm also pastor of a parochial school. And the parochial school is grades pre-K through 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really love to see an opportunity for some of our parochial school students to have exposure to the organ, the instrument. Sometimes it's just the sheer mechanics of the instrument that's very attractive, but that could be a gateway into the literature itself. And so anything that can, there were some logistical problems with us pulling that off in Beverly, partly because the school's a mile away from the church, and there are just other logistical problems. But I'd love to be able to do something where I could offer our young people an opportunity, at least, to hear the instrument and to learn a little bit more about it. So I'd be more apt to follow do you have a curriculum or an agenda for the pedals, pipes, and pizza that you follow?
Yeah, so in the handbook that should be, or if it is not already, it will be available for download. It gives you, the curriculum that you can follow, just a very loose, to create the kind of structure that you would want for that event. And then also just a timeline, so then you know how much time you could spend on an activity just to keep that engagement and that enthusiasm throughout.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's something that was thought through and is available now with those resources. But the hope, like you said, I hope these get used, right? Like I hope that people use them and and really use these resources. That's the hope. Yeah.
Having seen the video, that is a real draw, especially to people in that age group. So I would encourage you to view that yourself, David, and perhaps use that as a promo to say, now we're going to go to an actual instrument as the second step, and then do your PPP there because it's brilliant, it's fun, and you get to know what David's favorite kind of pizza is.
I like gas station pizza. I'm not the most sophisticated in taste, but yeah.
I'd have to work it into the curriculum. That's the other part is these kids are they have a very full curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And so to work one more thing in, but I'd really like to have the opportunity to try because I think it's kind of a shame that, here the pastor is so interested in these issues and in the instrument and the repertoire, playing and listening, and that I don't have the opportunity to pass that on to the kids who are our own here in Beverly.
Right. Absolutely. It's a good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I wondered, just for in the last 5 minutes or so that we have, I would love to, get your thoughts on the pedagogy conference, if this is something that you find that would be useful. It's really in the very much the planning stages. We still have to, do the call for papers, call for presenters, all of these kinds of things. But is this something that you personally would find like, hey, I would spend, and we're the idea is that we keep it like quite cheap, especially for members, and also the cost difference to make it a good consideration to join the AGO, right? And then also, and I didn't talk about it, but also there's this like, we'd have things like raffles and like just things, like, oh, like a gift card for this, like, and then like discounts with like Sheet Music Plus and like, so there's a lot of benefits to attending the conference that you would get. A discount if you ever want to buy a Hauptwerk, like a percentage off of that if you've attended the conference. Like those kinds of things are in the works. Different committee members are working on currently. But I'm just curious if this is something that resonates with you, and totally fine if you're like, no, I have no interest. That's great too. But yeah. Yeah, Louise, please.
Yeah, I mean, many of you know by ongoing My ongoing project at the cathedral is, it's a big project, and we're finally getting to the point where we're able to take some steps forward. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're doing some fundraising just to clean one of the organs. And do we want to bring the other one back? And we have to, we're figuring that out. But part of what we're starting to do is to have family days. We're going to have some in the summer, and I was just discussing this just today. I mean, and so all these things that you're saying is very funny because it's appropriate as far as I'm concerned, because I just had this discussion today about getting people, I mean, just folks. We have a family day, and they're going to come in, and you can draw pictures of a pipe and maybe see a pipe and do all this kind of thing. And I used to do this kind of thing at Milton Academy because we had an organ there, and we always had an organ unit. So I'm very curious about this. It's not just for schools. I mean, if we could even do this in our churches too. I mean, because the organs, I saw so many organs during the pandemic. I was doing projects in the diocese, and I just saw so many dusty organs. It's the time is, hopefully we haven't, the ship hasn't passed us already. And in that light, I just put something in the chat. I was in Portsea in the UK about a year ago, 2 years ago. And there's something called the organproject.org. They got there first, right? The organproject.org. And it is this website is run by the organist who is also an IT guy. And he lists on this website, you can play every single pipe of the organ.
Wow.
Yeah. Fantastic. I said, how'd you do that? He said, one very, very, very long day.
Wow.
You can play the organ from the website. So as soon as you were talking about that, it just reminded me of that. Because you can also play it, Yeah, it's also really cool. There's a little keyboard that's down in the. I don't know if I can share. I don't know if I can share. Am I allowed to share? I can show you. Here's the website. If I can share it. Am I sharing it now? Yeah.
Yes.
There's the website, and so there's the organ, Walker organ, and they show this. And and they got a big grant. And these are all school kids and their teachers. And they work with the public school. Now this is the UK, but they got a big grant, and the only reason they got a big grant to do all this is because they were working in the public school. And but I just thought it just reminded me of that because it was really cool to. It was. I mean, I went up there, and it's a beautiful, beautiful organ, and it was and this particular church, huge thing. This big long history was vandalized, seriously vandalized, and so they got a big grant to restore it, and the organ.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty impressive.
So David, I would love to know when the conference is going to be. Do you have dates? I want it on my calendar right now.
Yes, absolutely. So the plan right now is to do it from October 9th through the 11th. Thursday, October 9th in the evening through and Saturday, October 11th.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one thing that I struggle with as a teacher is how do I help my students choose which colleges they're going to consider seriously? So as soon as you said that you were hoping to talk about different programs at the collegiate level, I got really excited about that. It would be lovely to know a little bit about each of the professors, to have students talk about the culture of those schools. Of course, you aren't going to get everything out about culture because, we only know what we know. But any information tidbits so that teachers can help steer their students, and so that students who are, juniors and seniors in high school can start to figure that out. That would be really helpful. And it sounds like it's along the lines of what you're doing.
I'll bring that to the committee because I think that's kind of our, but I think just to be very, I think pointed about, that's something that people would want to attend, just to have a session so that they could meet different, faculty from programs and then students in it. And just to make that its own session. Like, I think that could be incredible.
That would be really helpful. And David, I would also encourage you to talk about the Emerging Artist Program and give chapters kind of a boilerplate for what that might look like to start that in their own chapter, because I think that's such an important part of what the Boston AGO does. And I think that your enthusiasm is infectious, and that would be just a gift for other chapters.
Thank you. Thanks so much. One thing, these, the initiatives, the PPP one has ended, right? And then we talked about the other two, the Achievement Awards, which is a smaller lift, and then the big lift for the next year is the Pedagogy Conference. But I did want to mention another thing that is probably, at least a couple of years down the line, but has started 2 to 3 years ago, that we are actively working on. And once things continue to feel even more comfy with the national website, we're hoping it can really kind of be an opportunity for even organists to start submitting into this database. But the idea is, it's called Themes and Seasons. And so for organists, the idea is, if you have a baptism on a Sunday, say, and you're like, I wonder what kind of music I can play, organ repertoire, easy, intermediate, and advanced, you're going to have a codified list that you can look over. And the idea behind it is, we see so many people write on Facebook or social media, hey, I have this, we have a Stonewall Evensong, and I need music by LGBT composers that I would like to play, but I don't know what to play. And then you see people just kind of crowdsourcing. Well, the idea is that people can crowdsource this into one database. And so it's a very big lift that we've been, and so our committee's already been putting in things by themes and seasons, like even just for Advent and Christmas and Epiphany and, all of these kinds of events in the church year. And so it's very onerous, but I think that this could be something that would be very useful to organists. And I just wanted to let you know that that's something that's really in the works, but it will probably be quite some time, probably after my time on this committee, before that would be ready. But just wanted to let you know that's really on the back burner as well. So,
David, would that have recordings and scores as well?
The idea is that there would be YouTube links to recordings.
Cool.
So then you could, and for those that would have scrolling scores would be really nice. So you can have an idea of like, oh yeah, I think I can get that ready by next week, or nope, I'm going to look for something easier, that's really the idea. We're just trying to think of something that would just be so useful, hopefully to church music, musicians who just want new repertoire, but don't want to have to feel like they're spending hours, just trying to, spend time at a music store when there's colleagues all around who are playing new music, right? And it's not repertoire, but also like BIPOC composers as well. So
that would be great for programs for recitals. I love doing themed recitals, and
yes,
yeah. So I hope it's not limited to just church music.
No, yeah. I mean, we're hoping, and that's why we try to put in like the word themes as well. So it's not just seasons of the church year, but yeah, Kathy, you came up with a really cool one with the topic of rose, right? Like the last rose of summer. And then you did like a program around rose.
I did a program around, it's called A Walk in the Park.
So cool.
I played things. I had like a rose section where I did like trying to think. I did Diane Bish's arrangement of Lo How a Rose, and I did the Rosebud March by Scott Joplin. I did like 4 rose pieces. And then I did, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the name of it. But anyway, everything that you would see in a park. So cool. Like under a linden tree, the Sphalink, and yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun.
So cool.
We and Jeffrey was there, and we last week, no, oh gosh, 2 weeks ago now, we did I put together a bunch of postludes. This is all about postludes, And I had one list from Sarah Bariza in St. Louis, and then I just went and made up another list, and then everybody was contributing all kinds of. It was really I'm going to put it together, Jeffrey. I really am.
Okay, good.
Because people were contributing left and right and center, this is really just generic postludes because you have to do postludes every week, and it was pretty fun to just share. Said, hey, try this one, try that one, and just to put it on a list. It's easier. It's easier because your colleagues have said, hey, try this, and it was I found it really energizing, and I've been using a bunch of the pieces already, and I'm planning on using more of them.
Amazing.
What we suggested.
And one thing that you might want to consider in putting this together is to reach out to particularly BIPOC and women composers and ask them to contribute some of their own things. The reason I say that is I was looking for something for a service coming up soon, and it's based around Hildegard of Bingen. So I thought we're going to do a lot of things. Um, I'm sorry. It was another, not her, but one of the pieces is hers, her text, and we're celebrating Julian of Norwich, and so I thought, gee, I wish I had that piece, and so I just wrote to Mary Beth Bennett, and she had this really easy partita on the first hymn that I'm doing,
So cool.
and she sent it to me under her postage saying, here's my catalog. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just manuals only. I thought this is great.
Yeah, she's very generous, Mary
Yeah.
Beth. We had.
And then I'm doing a Brenda Portman at the end.
Yeah.
It's
That's a really great point, Jeffrey. Michelle Cardos, who's really our staff person, her so much of her research is on DEI composers.
Yep.
And there's just like she's been working on this just exhaustive lists. And so I just love picking her brain and then her connecting us with these composers themselves, right? To talk about the music they're writing. So it's just that's been a real gold mine and such a treat. I think a real gem for us.
and the same can be done with choral music too, obviously. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity for discussion. I hope you gained something out of this because I certainly did. I came in with this very selfish agenda that I knew I would be surrounded by brilliant people and I would get some really brilliant feedback and wonderful ideas that I could then speak about with the committee. And we could just have more discussion and dialogue. And so I want to thank all of you for being such active participants today. And feel free, if you think of something in the middle of the night, email me, please. If you're like, oh, I wish I would have mentioned. I mean, because I just love these kinds of opportunities to have these spaces where we can talk about things that we're so interested in. And the Boston chapter is home for all of us. There's just so many incredible people, all of you. So this has been just such a treat for me, and I really appreciate this dialogue today.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you.
It's been a treat for me, and I'm seeing lots of smiles on the screen. So I think there's proof right there.